Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Rochelle Scouten, Development Director of the NBDA. We're so happy to have you join the National Bicycle Dealers Association this morning, as we have Kenji here with us, and we have a wonderful panel of retailers, and we're really excited about this. So Kenji, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks a lot, Rochelle. Well, today we're going to be talking about something a little different, I think, than a lot of you might have seen. We're going to talk about cross-category learning and what does that mean during this time of the COVID crisis, the pandemic that's affected all retailers and all businesses across industries in the US and globally. Well, the way we see it is that there are different ways that the situation is affecting different retailers in different segments. And those of us on the outdoor side, which is the world I come from, the world of climbing and camping and hiking and backpacking, there are commonalities across the industries, including cycling, including paddle sports, even including some forms of motorsports or overlanding. And what we want to do is chat with people in these different segments and get their views, get some solutions out of them that they're working on, some creativity that is being applied to keeping the business afloat and not just surviving, but thriving in this environment. So we have a panel of 4 retailers joining us. Right now we've got 2 on. We're working on getting the other 2, but we figured we'd start as close to on time as we could. So thanks to the NBDA for hosting this. The National Bicycle Dealers Association is a group that's really focused on serving the specialty shops across the country, which is a great premise for this particular group of retailers across a broader swath of the outdoor recreation landscape. We have with us today, we have Mike Massey. So Mike Massey is the owner and operator of Massey's Professional Outfitters based in Louisiana. We have Kent Cranford, who is a bike shop owner and operator based in Asheville, North Carolina. And both of these retailers have multiple shops and in different segments and different geographies. And I also need to say back to Mike that he's also the founder of a platform called locally.com. And if you don't know what locally.com is, I suggest you check that out. It's a platform that he's been working on for many years, and it is particularly in service to specialty shops. So as we've got Darren. Hi, Darren. Darren Bush joining us. Thanks for coming in. And I'll go ahead and let the folks make their own introductions. We'll also have one other person joining us shortly from the Running Industry Association. So Kent, since you're a veteran of the NBDA webinar, why don't you go first and make an introduction to yourself on how you got into this business to begin with.
Let me unmute myself as a veteran. Yeah. So I've been in the bike retail business since I was a kid, 16 years old, coming up on my 55th birthday. So that's, I don't know, the math is too hard for me. It's too long. But I've been on the wholesale side, I've been on the sales side, I've been on the marketing side, and eventually came back to the retail side, which is the side that I love. And I tell all the folks over on the wholesale side that really retailing is way more fun than trying to sell to us retailers. They don't believe that, but it's true. So I've owned Motion Makers now for 13 years. It was originally a single store in rural Sylva, North Carolina, about an hour from Asheville. And then 10 years ago, I opened up in Asheville, which has been very successful here. And then 3 years ago, I opened up in a small location in Cherokee, North Carolina, on the tribal reservation. And so we've been pretty busy around here. Kenji, do you want me to get into where we are right now, or just that little introduction?
Yeah, we'll circle back with some of the questions. Appreciate that. And Mike, why don't you go ahead?
So my name is Mike Massey. I am the 3rd generation owner of Massey's Outfitters. We're based in New Orleans. I've been at this. I'm similar age as Kent. I've been at this for about 30 years. Grew up in the shop. Like sorting and putting away shoes, things like that. Massey's is involved in outdoors primarily, but we also sell bikes, we sell running gear, we sell, we veer into surf space, luggage, things like that. In New Orleans, hardcore outdoors like climbing is not really as much of a thing. I also, as Kenji mentioned, I was very early, one of the very first outdoor stores in the country to do e-commerce back in the early mid 90s. It was really early, actually the first outdoor store to venture into the Amazon marketplace space, and then kind of seeing what was coming back in the early 2010s. Realized that local stores were increasingly cut off from the way shoppers were shopping, and started a platform called Locally to kind of address that gap. So that's it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Mike. And Darren, take it away.
So I didn't set off to be a retailer. Nobody does, right? I mean, Mike is in an interesting situation. My kids both said, hell no. But I started off in academics, and but I was working part-time in this little shop called Rutabaga, just to get my fix. I was sitting in front of computers 40 hours a week, doing very intellectual work, but not very satisfying work, not a lot of human contact. And went from part-time weekend warrior to full-time manager to VP to owner. And I've been the owner now for coming up on 18 years. And never thought that I would do this. If you told me 20 years ago I'd be doing this, I'd say you're crazy. But I really love, I love the results of what I do. Some people say they love what they do. I love about half of what I do. The rest of it, as most business owners know, it would be the same as if I were selling toilet seats, right? There's HR and accounting and all that stuff is universal. But the other 50%, that's what makes it worth doing. So
awesome. Well, thanks, Darren. And by the way, Darren, his shop is called Rutabaga, based in Madison, Wisconsin.
thank you.
Yeah, right. Well, no problem. And then Terry's joined us. Terry, do you want to make an intro of where you're coming from? Oh, I think your audio.
You're muted.
Our good old technology friends here. No, nothing yet. All right. Well, can't hear you, Terry. Maybe there's probably a couple different mute options or audio activations that have to happen. I'll make an intro to Terry real quick while we work on that that audio piece. And so Terry is the executive director of the Running Industry Association. I've had the opportunity to know Terry over the past 4 or 5 years. And Running Industry Association focuses on serving specialty retailers in the run category. And running shops are certainly part of this ecosystem, the greater ecosystem of outdoor recreation dealers. And there's a lot of different ways I think that the running industry has responded, not just in this situation, but to the overall conditions of specialty retail in the country. So it was Mike's idea to reach out and include running, which makes a ton of sense. And so thanks, Mike, for that concept, and thanks, Terry, for joining us. Do you want to do an audio test? Oh, 1 second, he's working on it. I hear something. That might have been someone. All right.
Language, Terry? I mean, that's helpful.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again to all of you for taking the time to join. Let's get into the meat of our presentation today, or our panel. So really the context of this is surviving and thriving for specialty retailers across the broader range of outdoor retail shops in the country. And there's quite a variability in the reporting that we've seen, a little bit of reporting during the pandemic and how shops are doing. Many are closed. I've seen a number of reports myself, and but both from the running industry, from Colorado Outdoors, from groups like Grassroots and others who are trying to take stock of what's happening across the country. I myself come from the background of being a specialty retailer for 14 years as at Adventure 16, which is a shop that recently just closed its doors for good in December of 2019, unfortunately, after 57 years. So obviously there's a lot of stress in the environment for specialty retailers. And so how are some of you dealing with that stress now with the extra added bonus of the coronavirus in our midst? So that's the context here. The opening question is about this disruption and asking you to consider what disruptions have you already endured in the past and how are you faring during this particular disruption? And so why don't we start with Mike and hear how you're coping and what other disruptions in the past have helped you learn how to deal with this.
Okay, so I mentioned that I was in New Orleans and got to ride out something called Katrina a few years ago. And, you know, not only was it a longer disruption, I think that we were shut down from August until December. There's a longer disruption, but it also fully destroyed all of our merchandise and our store. You know, we used that gap of being closed to you know, to essentially upgrade the interior of the store, you know, which was long in the tooth after, you know, 30-ish years of you know, not being really addressed. It was really challenging. We had to do the same thing with employees. We had to furlough employees. We did the best we could. We obviously didn't have the resources to like span you know, 3 or 4 months worth of staff salaries, but we did the best we could. And then we got out of that, and just a few years later, we were hit you know, right between the eyes again by the BP oil spill, which you know, basically put the kibosh on all Southern Louisiana recreation for some period of time. And that didn't shut our stores down, but it was a punch to the gut for you know, for top line revenue. It was challenging, you know, but when this started, we felt like, you know, that it would be similar. We, you know, I told my staff, I said, you know, this is going to be painful at first. You'll see a light as this, you know, starts to get to the middle. And as we, you know, in Louisiana start to see, you know, this potentially wrap up, you know, as I told them in the last two, you know, just the way it was in the last 2 episodes, you know, that consumers will flock back into local retail and restaurants. I think some hard hit industries like travel will probably be longer to return, but you know, we do see some optimism coming out of this at the end.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Mike. Good insight. And yeah, Katrina, that was a little bit of a disruption.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry, are you back in audio now?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got thumbs. Right on.
All right.
So maybe a quick intro and then talk a little bit about your disruption story and how you're faring in this particular one.
Well, I think you covered. I'm the executive director of the Running Industry Association. I'm not a retailer. However, my job is to support the 500 or so odd specialty run retailers in the United States and Canada. So the RIA provides, you know, education, events, and of course, which are canceled, but and various other support discounts to our members and what have you. But we're very tuned into the world of run specialty retail, and so I appreciate being asked to participate today. In terms of disruption, obviously, you know, what's really interesting is when our economy is disrupted, like currently right now, but the last major disruption was back in the late 2008, 2009 with the housing crisis, and the bubble burst and created some issues for the economy. But what's really interesting about the sport of running is that when things get tough in the economy and jobs are lost and what have you, people tend to run more. So running specialty always kind of takes a different sort of tack when the economy is challenged. So in 2008, actually, running stores did very well. And so now we have this other crisis, and the current crisis, and it is proven to be more disruptive than we could have imagined. However, people are out there running and training. The challenge for run specialty retailers overcoming the retailer or the consumer urge to go buy online and to access their customers. And so that's the disruption that they're facing right now, is to continue access to their customers rather than them going and purchasing running shoes online.
Great point. And I'm sure that's echoed across the landscape of shops, although it might be a little bit different in paddle and bike. So Darren, I know you've had a little disruption of late. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, the governor shut down Cornucopia, which is our large consumer event. It's a significant chunk of our annual net operating profit, and also big cash infusion when we need it. So we shut it down a day before the government told us to, because we saw it was just the right thing to do. I used to be in public health, so for me, the optics were a little bit different. And it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. But it was the right thing to do. People's lives were saved. We're bringing people in from all over the country into a 100,000 square foot hall with, you know, between 10 and 20,000 people. They were going to bring it, and it was going to be bad. So I killed it. Our governor is being pretty strict about openings. They just announced yesterday we can open our store, which was a little bit earlier, 5 people at a time, which is hard for me because across the street there's a Quick Trip with 35 people in it. So the rules are sort of capricious and arbitrary. But we've been doing curbside pickup. We've been doing concierge service. I just did a complete transaction on my phone on FaceTime with a customer who bought about $4,500 worth of stuff, and we delivered it to his house. It's just, you know, you just you do everything you can, right? And the creative retailers are the ones that are going to get through this. To Terry's point, there's a store in Madison called Fleet Feet. I'm sure you're aware of them. It's a franchise, but it's owned by a local couple. And my daughter hates Amazon, so she bought a pair of shoes from them on the phone. And the owner, I think it's Jennifer, said, "Where do you live?" She said, "I just live on the west side." She's like, "I'll just drop them off on my way home." So the owner of the shop dropped off some running shoes at my house. That's what it takes, right?
Yeah, a lot of our guys are doing that.
Well,
Yeah.
REI is not going to send, you know, it's not Jerry anymore, I forgot his name, to drop off a pair of shoes or a bike or whatever. And Ed Stack's certainly not going to leave Dick's. But every single person on this call who's in specialty, you can do anything you want to. And that's the cool part about it, right? It's like, yeah, I can drop that off. Yeah, I can put that bike together in your driveway. I mean, people don't forget that stuff.
That's right.
Great point. Thanks, Darren. And that creativity, remaining creative in this time is probably one of the hardest things to do, but also one of the ways you can seem to come out of this, you know, better than you went in. Kent, let's hear from you on the bike shop side of things about kind of disruptions you've had and what the current coping mechanism is, coping with COVID.
Sure. Well, bike shops generally across the country were lucky enough to be allowed to remain open, at least at a service side. Most of them, we didn't have an option whether to turn off sales if service was open. So the sales side was open too. And we realized immediately in the first weekend of this, when our stores were overrun with people, that it was a busy Saturday and we had to just lock the door because we were losing control of what was going on. My staff were concerned, other customers were concerned, and nobody knew what to do because we were being allowed to be open where everybody else was closed. And the models that we were seeing at the big box stores certainly weren't what we wanted to follow. So we immediately went to a locked door. Masks when interacting with our customers, a lot of cleaning procedures in the stores, and then basically we're operating with kind of a one-on-one personal shopper experience for the customers, bringing bikes outside to them. We have a zone inside our Asheville store that customers can come into the front door and come to the counter, but they can't go into the actual merchandising aspects of the store. They can see stuff. We can pick it out for them, bring it to them. It's tedious. It takes a lot of time and energy. And, you know, we don't, you know, clothing sales are definitely taking a major hit with this. Anything people touch and try on, but you know, we set a protocol for that. If somebody does want to try something on, let's identify the size and the color really closely for them. And then what they don't buy, we actually quarantine for 3 days and put it in a box with stuff for that day that we open up 4 days later and put back out where we can get to it. And, you know, and then the service side is overwhelming. You know, definitely the bike industry's suffering. You know, this will become the next mini bike boom, if not major bike boom, that, you know, that people talk about from the 70s, that it's just running out of inventory, where suppliers are running out of inventory. I'm glad I was overstocked because it's allowed us to be, you know, have really strong sales to this point, but, you know, there is an end to that at some point. And it's just like nothing we've seen. You know, the closest would be 2008, not the economic aspect of it, but the gas prices. The bike industry saw, you know, the shops, people were dragging bikes out from the bike boom that hadn't been ridden since the 70s, and like, hey, I want to ride my bike and save gas. And we were fixing all those bikes and backed up on service. Well, we're backed up on that same service again on those same bikes from 2008 that were ridden again. So we're hoping that this gets people riding their bikes and getting excited about it and continue to ride their bikes and not just be a boom. You know, like the 70s boom was definitely one that continued and created, I mean, a lot of bike shop owners, you know, that I talked to came from that boom, and that's where they still are. So that's where we're at right now. We're lucky. Our business is really good. The industry is really strong for the folks that have been able to stay open and had inventory to sell.
I love your idea about having a lane coming into the one register.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. We're definitely going to implement that because we have the same experience where the doors were open and we actually got a negative review on Google saying these guys have more than 10 people in the store and they don't care about viruses. And I'm like, you got to lock the door.
Yeah, it's all a learning curve for sure.
No one's
Yeah,
done
thanks.
this, right?
Yeah, there's some unique adaptations that are at play right here, both with events and certainly accessing the store and physical distancing and so many different elements that just haven't been part of what we've experienced. And there's a great article, by the way, Kent, that you reminded me of. That I've never been a bike dealer, and so I kind of, you know, I'm a looky-loo, and I certainly have some bikes and I love them, and I'm in the market for at least one or two now. But it's by a writer named Carlton Reed, who I had opportunity to meet, and it's on Forbes, and it's about the bike boom. Really, it has a really deep history about the history of the bike boom in the 70s, how that's relevant now, and what to look like. It has some warning elements to it, like, hey, let's not take for granted what this is about, and how can we lock in some of these gains better than we did in the 70s, where the bike boom kind of, you know, got overrun, so to speak. Now I wanted to turn to Terry real quick and see, Terry, are you okay if I share the research that you guys had done at the Running Industry Association? Kind of puts a nice snapshot to this conversation around where are dealers right now. So you're cool with that?
Yeah,
I didn't ask you in advance, but let me see if I can pull that off here. So let's see. Oh, yeah, that's not what I wanted to show. It's here somewhere though. Where did I put that? Oh, there it is.
How many tabs do you have?
There it is.
Too many tabs. Yes. Now, is this like showing my underwear or standing up when I'm not wearing pants?
You beating me on tabs.
You're the guy.
There it is.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
So this is the survey, real quick, that the RIA had done just back in late March on initially surveying your retail audience, your specialty retailers, and talking a little bit about the status. And so this is just some insider info from the running industry. But to me, having looked at it, it echoes very much what I saw from the outdoor industry through the different research projects I had seen there. So you can see that the majority of running shops were closed in late March, but something like 28% were in some form of open, it seems like. Reduced hours and different statuses among, say, a chain of stores. And there's some predictability or predictions on how the business is faring as far as how far down it was. And notice, yeah, the blue, which says we're actually up or flat, was almost 10%, which is sort of interesting number. Not sure that any of the outdoor shops could have shown that. And I'm sure that the bike shops would show a much bigger pie slice there, from what I've learned from the NBDA and from anecdotal commentary from you all. And so those are important. I think that's really all I wanted to do, was show some of these trends early on and acknowledge that Terry and the Running Industry Association are just launching their second phase now in mid-March to reach back out to the retail audience and kind of take a temperature. So they're launching that. So that's something to look out for if you're paying attention to the Running Industry Association research. And I'm sure we're going to see more of that from other organizations in the near future, including the Sports Federation Group and OIA. All right, so I'm going to go back. Let's see, I think I can just stop sharing is what I can do. All right, we're back. Thanks for letting me do that, Terry.
No problem.
On this element of community, I kind of wanted to see how each of you were helping to build community in this time where there's so much disruption around gathering, whether it's Darren's Canoecopia event or the events that I'm involved in. You know, we're all going to this digital interface. It's challenging to build community already when you're a specialty retailer. How are you encouraging your community or investing in that building of the community? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Mike, are you doing something there to continue to engage a broader audience?
You know, so the biggest thing that we did during this period of time was to, you know, to really sharpen our ability to serve our customers, you know, outside of our business. We understood that, you know, walk-in traffic was going to basically go to zero during the entire time of the stay-at-home, and so, you know, we really optimized for, you know, curbside, we optimized for local delivery, and we optimized for, you know, shipped packages. And you know, and we actually saw that part of our business triple during the period of time. It certainly didn't make up, you know, the totality of having 3 stores closed, but you know, it did keep some core staff working, you know, full days, pulling packages, shipping stuff, delivering boats, things like that were really essential for us to maintain the connection and to make the argument, hey, you know, don't go to our online competitor or Amazon or whatever at this moment. You know, what you need to do is you need to like shop with us online and stop by, and we'll bring your roof rack out and install it for you, or we will you know, we'll rent you a kayak if you've told us you want to do that. You know, so you know, we did everything that we could possibly do to keep a heartbeat with our customers, but we kept our voice relatively low, you know, because I'm a big believer that you know, that broadcasting messages that are not actionable are you know, dilute your actionable messages. You know, so this Friday we will start aggressively promoting our stores being back to somewhat normal, at least limping, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on, and hopefully that will be well received, and we expect to you know, to hit the ground running.
Awesome, great insight there. Hey, and on that note, can you talk a little bit about Locally? Because I think locally.com is also relevant to community building.
Yeah, so like Kenji, you and I have talked about this, and I think that it's really relevant. Being a retailer for a really long period of time, I basically put the optimizations of our business and retail into like 3 buckets. I basically put, service, selection, and logistics. Service is what you add to selling a product. It's, your in-store service. So if you're Amazon, it's your reviews. Selection is your curation, it's your pricing strategies, it's your assortment, even maybe in-store merchandising. And then logistics is the last leg of it, is how do I get the product to the customer? As local retailers, we're very used to this idea that logistics means customers coming to us. And Amazon has been telling customers for many years that the product comes to you. And what I saw happening during this period of time in the outdoor industry was that outdoor brands largely tried to adjust to this by changing their selection model, by offering 25% off or 30% off, and basically forcing consumers, hey, you know what? We're direct to consumer and we're 30% off. We're going to push this product out because REI isn't going to buy it, and we don't care, and we just got to do what we got to do. The reason I said we should have the running industry here is that the running industry came at it a different direction. The brands like Hoka, the brands like Brooks, they tried to address the logistics part of the problem. How do we connect shoppers to inventory using the ways that Amazon has taught shoppers to shop? And so essentially what they did was they said, hey, we know you can't walk in our store, but we're going to bring our store to you online, and we're going to make this really easy for you to do curbside. And a bunch of the locally brand partners have really stepped it up and made delivery free. We've done tens of thousands of orders for shops that, like, going into this, had no idea of anything happening. We had about 200 stores that were accepting transactions. There are thousands of stores now. And and I just see there being this diametrical opposition between what the outdoor industry and how it addressed the challenge and what the running industry did, which was like, hey, we're going to bring this to your house, we're going to drop that product off to you, or we're going to have Postmates bring it to you, or we're going to have a customer service waiting for you in our parking lot. I think there's some learnings here for everybody.
Yeah, to your point, Mike, our retail survey that Kenji shared also shared that the fact, or also pointed out the fact that 91% of the retailers, running retailers in the channel, either employed some form of online connection to their customers. Locally would be an example of that. 91% either are on a platform or moving towards setting up a platform of that nature, which to me is one of the good things that's going to come out of the when we all come through this. It's going to be a permanent change to specialty retailers and their platforms in terms of how they reach out and connect with their customers. That will be a very positive and permanent change, where there will be some sort of, we'll call it, omni-channel presence that they have employed for their stores that to date they haven't focused on, but necessity has moved them in that direction, and that will be part of the permanent fabric of how they do business going forward. And so I see that as in all these dark clouds, this is a silver lining for sure.
And look, I want to really reemphasize a single point in this. The running space, by and large, addressed the logistics challenge rather than the price challenge, and really surged. And you can't fix a logistics issue if your customer can't get into your store. You can't fix that issue by offering them lower prices. Those are different things. And I think that it's really important here. And everybody's looking for ways to make their stores more accessible. But what's really challenging here is communicating the information to the shopper who's shopping online in their house at 11 o'clock at night after spending a 14-hour day working on Zoom. And so we need to address the consumer behavior the way that it is occurring, which is on screen, and then it's novel logistics.
That's a really interesting point, because the idea of using Zoom and FaceTime and Google Duo and any of those platforms,
All of them.
That's not going to go away after this is over. And it shouldn't, and we should have been using it all along, frankly. But I had a customer that wanted to buy a paddle, what colors do they come in? It's like, well, the web's not going to do it, right? So I come up and I take it was a bending branches paddle with the beautiful patterns on it. I held it up to the light, turned my phone on, say, this is what it looks like in the light. He's like, oh, I want that one. Set it by the door, I'll pick it up. I mean, we can do things that no one else can do. And that's the cool part about being specialty is, yeah, we have our disadvantages. You know, we don't have all the big infrastructure and, you know, the deep pockets. You know, big guys can ride this out. They'll just take a huge hit and the shareholders will suck. And that's how it works. But I'm really heartened to hear that people are actually thinking differently. And you're right, it is going to continue. Our web sales just passed last year's web sales, and it's April. And that's because we ask people to buy things from us. We're very transparent, and there's a power to vulnerability, which is, look, guys, it sucks right now. We need your help to stay open. And usually that's a bad idea because it's like, you know, people want to throw good money after bad. But if it's like, hey, we're all in this together, which is mostly true, but we're in this with you and we need your help. And we sold, you know, 5 figures with the gift cards. The first 2 weeks we were closed. All we have to do is ask and, you know, be authentic about it. And to Mike's point about, you know, sending out all sorts of stuff, one of our competitors sent out a thing, hey, you got your stimulus check, come spend it here. That is such bad optics. It's stupid. It's like, hey, we want your money. It's like, no, just say, hey, we're here for you. They're not dumb. They'll figure it out. They get $1,200. They're going to spend it on a boat if they want to. But yeah, that kind of grasping, clawing, you know, sort of the worst part about capitalism is really offensive right now because people aren't thinking about that. People are spending money where they think it does good for the community and you know, does well spiritually. You know, REI closing down, I should send those guys flowers. It's
Without a curbside plan, no curbside plan at all.
no plan. They're too big, they can't be nimble. And that's the thing is I can make a policy today and it starts tomorrow morning. Doesn't have to go through corporate, doesn't have to go through lawyers, we can just do it. And that's the secret, I think, right now is just doing things. And if it fails, it fails. But it's, you know, we'll know very quickly that it didn't work.
Great point. And that speed to market piece is going to increasingly be a bigger deal, I think, too, going forward. And you're all in good position to be there for your customers. Kent, could you tell us a little bit about your kind of community building approach during this time?
Yeah, you know, Kent, you and I spoke earlier. I was anxious to hear about the community building part because our community building right now, with all the work that we've done over the years to build our community and all the events and the support for events and the private nights here at the shop for the women's groups and things like that, they can't do any of that. And so I think, you know, kind of to what Darren was saying, sending out messages, you know, the emails that we sent out in the initial part of this, letting people know we were open and what was going on, had the highest open rates of any emails I've ever sent, which was amazing. It told me people really wanted to know what we were saying. I also got more personal responses from people saying, we're here for you. You know, I had people that had gift cards on account who brought the gift card in and said, keep this. I want you guys to stay here. I need to let them now know they can spend that gift card because we didn't need it. We appreciated it. But so community building from this point is going to be interesting, is that I don't know what the next steps are. And I'm really anxious to see what other wise folks in all of these industries are doing to take the next steps other than being here for them and, you know, ready to support them. People want to be outdoors more than they've ever wanted to be, and we're here for them.
Here's one thing that I do. So there's my business card backwards.
Mm-hmm.
On the back of it, it says, I'm grateful for you. It's always been
Nice.
there. Now I'm signing them.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through 500 business cards since March, and I just write out 20 of them a day. They go in every web order that's shipped.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten, same thing, Ken, I've gotten people, I had to look to see if that was printed on there, and I'm like, hey, you hand wrote that. Who does that, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's nice.
You can, right? And my cell phone's on my card. I just send it to 500 people. I don't care, right?
Mhm.
Call me at 3 in the morning. I want to answer anyway.
Yeah.
That is an authentic gratitude. Thank you. It's not a business maneuver. It's not PR. It's just, I'm thankful for these people. And when I tell them that in an authentic way, they will respond, and they do.
Yep. Yeah. Like that.
That personal touch. Nice, Darren. So I wanted to kind of, we're at 9:45, so we got 15 minutes tops here. I wanted to ask one last question and then sort of field any questions or further commentary on this really excellent discussion. And that's about the tools that you're using right now, whether it's for building community or just serving customers, or even internally for communicating with your own team. We talked a little bit about Zoom and FaceTime and the different digital tools that are out there. What tools are you using that you found that are useful, particularly in the digital space, to help your business move forward during this time? I'll leave that as an open question to whoever.
I'm looking at Mike.
Well, obviously I use locally.
Yeah.
The biggest opportunity right now that I've got my finger on and like literally spent the morning working on is Google's announcement of local advertising becoming free for everyone on this call. If you are selling to a local community and you want to get your products into Google, you need to spend some time Googling Google surfaces, because that new program is completely free as they ramp up their battle with Amazon. If you guys don't know, Amazon has eaten Google's lunch, not just eating, but eaten it. And Google is responding by trying to put your inventory information in front of their shoppers for free. And that's worth thousands of dollars per month in free advertising. And then obviously, using Shopify or Magento or whatever is still really, really relevant. Being able to communicate to your, but social media and Instagram, my wife and kids are using that, constantly. Anything that you're doing that you can communicate, MailChimp, it doesn't matter. I think it's great. I don't think that papers are necessarily the best way for you to be communicating with your shoppers right now.
We use Instagram and all that stuff. I've got some of the younger folks at the shop working on it because they know. But one of the things I said before also applies here. If you're putting up coupons every other day on Instagram, that speaks back to your point, Mike, about all we're doing is saying everything's on sale over and over again. It's the most boring thing in the world. The Instagram posts that get the most are links to things that our staff have done. Funny videos, things like that. And then on the constant contacts, we try and do 3 a week. Sunday mornings has nothing to do with business. And it's stories that our staff have written. Mother's Day was a beautiful story written by one of my managers who has been taking her mom out paddling on Mother's Day for years. And it blew up. And those were the most emails we got back. We're like, love that story. Thanks for sharing. So it really is an Aikido sort of thing with this kind of business. If you're pushing it in the traditional aggressive, we're on sale, we're blah, 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 we're better than Amazon. It's like, why even bring them up, right? Everybody knows who Amazon is. Everybody hates Bezos. Why do we have to even talk about them? Just do what you do.
Yeah, great points. Keeping it personal, doubling down on that personal touch. I love that.
Well, if Ken doesn't care about his customers, he wouldn't be in business, right? I truly believe you have to love your customers. You can't just say, yeah, they're a revenue source and pretend like you love them and smile when you see them. You have to be, you're not going to make it unless you truly think about those people all the time. When I'm driving, what do my customers need? How can I help them? Oh, I remember I sold a boat to somebody 20 years ago and they live by me and I drive by their house and honk. It's just, I don't know. Is it shouldn't be this hard, right? But the things that we're doing now are things that make retail fun. I mean, home deliveries are fun.
Mhm.
You get to stand in the driveway and chat with them for half an hour. If you're in the Midwest, that's kind of normal, right? That's where you communicate, stand in the driveway and talk. So
Yeah,
anyway,
you just have a little more space between you now, and less
Yeah.
hugging.
Midwesterners, yeah, in general, they're kind of like that anyway. Hands in pockets.
Any other you guys got further commentary on the digital tools you're putting in play for your customers or for your internal teams? I got
The
go ahead, Ken.
in addition to locally and the other sales platforms that they're using, what I think is really important, it's one thing to have the platform to create the sale. It's another thing to have a platform that allows you to market appropriately to your customers. And there are some wonderful platforms out there. Tribe Media would be an example. Omni. There's several companies that are out there and offering retailers for a relatively low monthly charge a elevated marketing presence that uses social media and the store's own databases to connect to their customers. And so, and these folks are. It's not simply elevating your Facebook site. It's far more than that, and they provide excellent service and metrics that show exactly what lift you receive. And what we're seeing with our customers is this is pretty powerful, is that of the sales that are directly attributed to the marketing efforts, 45% of those sales are to new customers. And that is so critical, as to, I don't care what type of specialty retailer you're in, attracting and retaining new customers is key to success. And these marketing platforms are doing a terrific job at helping retailers achieve that. So it's something to think about, the marketing platform and the sales platform. So that's what our stores are doing very successfully.
Kenji, it'd be helpful if everybody sends links to what they're doing, especially the Google free advertising to mail out to people who are on the call, because I can't I'm writing down all these things and I can't keep track of them. So
yeah, there'll definitely be webinar notes, and this is being recorded for posterity's sake. So this will fly on YouTube and on the NBDA's website afterwards.
That's terrifying.
Andy, I'm happy to provide for the Bike Association our resource guide, which would apply to any type of bike dealer. It's free to go on and check it out, and it's got all this information on all these platforms. So I'm happy to provide that to you, and you can pass it on.
Very cool, Terry. Thanks. Hey, Kent, did you have something on the digital tool as well?
Yeah, what we found is we never were a strong online seller. We've had an online presence. I felt like it was important from early on, and it's why we were an early bike shop signed up with Locally, was to give our customers the ability to sit on their sofa at 11 o'clock at night and see what we had at our store, so they could come in and buy it here, which they did. Most people would come in and just say, hey, I saw it on your website. We didn't have a lot of orders that went through. And now, we used to maybe have 10 orders a month. Now we're getting 10 a day. And most of them are still pick up in store, but we're seeing the weak points of where where we use Lightspeed as a point of sale. We use Smart E-tailing as our web platform, and they're both excellent for most of the process we use. But we're seeing where the weak links are now, and now we're starting to mail and/or ship a few more products, and it's like, okay, we need to figure out how to be more efficient at this. And so I've been discovering some of the platforms that are out there for shipping and reducing those rates, and trying to start using that. But the more information that can be out there for us specialty retailers on that stuff, because I'm blown away by how much there is once I start looking, but I didn't even know it existed before because I didn't ever really need it. And
look at Shipping Easy.
Shipping Easy?
Yeah, it allows you to click on, put the address in, it'll say which is the cheapest, UPS, USPS, or FedEx. And
Nice.
$20 a month, it pays for itself in like a day.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah. Particularly if you're in the bikes or the boats business, right? I mean, that's some
Yeah.
significant shipping.
Yeah, luckily we don't ship too many bikes. I mean, the brands restrict that to a large part, although they have loosened those reins right now during this period. But I imagine they will close back down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, a bike's $100 to $150 to ship anywhere.
This is
Hey, so as we get
This would-
as
Yeah,
we
we-
get close to
contact you on Facebook. We need to talk. I've got some ideas.
Perfect.
well, sorry to interrupt there, but we're getting close to the last couple minutes here. So I just had one question come over through digital means, and it's the question that I'd like to hear some answers to, and it's this: can you ask the retailers on the call how manufacturers can help them more as we get through this? So how can manufacturers be more supportive of what you're doing right now? There has been some glimpses of support coming from programs like buy online and bring into fit, and some other support mechanisms. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
Well, we
My
had
first
one.
thought is get inventory.
Get us inventory, right? That's in the bike scene. Darren, you had a comment.
Yeah, so we had one of our manufacturers, Level 6, they make paddle clothing. They did a thing on their website where they gave us a code. And if we send that to our customers, if they go on their site and use that code, we get 20% of the sale back. So just things like that, where we're helping them market. They still get a decent margin, and we get 20% credit towards our invoices. There's manufacturers doing creative things. What's not helpful is to put everything on your sale at 25% off because you're over inventoried. We're noting carefully those people who do that, and they're going to get smaller orders as we move forward because they're not partners. We're just their biggest customer in Madison. We're not their dealer.
If I might, you guys, what we've done relatively successfully is reached out to our major vendors. And to your point, Darren, about the over inventory situation where brands, they're sitting on inventory and they're going to get promotional because they got to move inventory. And so what we've encouraged our brands to do is everything they can to slow down their supply chains to ensure that the product coming in from overseas or wherever their production is arriving later than usual. It's not filling up their warehouse, and they filter that. And that, of course, down the road means they're going to have to delay new planned product introductions, but that's okay. The idea is to filter through and slowly sell through existing inventory so they can maintain full margins, and therefore the retailer can as well. So encouraging, associations jumping in and encouraging those manufacturers to slow down those supply chains to limit inventory is really key.
I love that. I also think that most of the big companies are publicly owned. We're shifting towards privately owned companies because they don't have shareholders that are pushing them to make the profits and generate cash flow. Because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to really, you have a quarter, you got to make money, and they're shoving product out. Our mid-sized manufacturers, the ones that are owner operated, are the ones that are like, hey, we'll be patient. We're going to pay you, we're paying our bills, and that helps, right? So I really like that idea of intervening with the supply chain, saying just slow down. If there's no new products developed this year, is anybody going to complain? Nobody.
And this question of association leadership, that's a really important one too. So thanks for bringing that up, Terry. Any final comments before we close up? It's been
Good luck to
awesome.
everyone.
I've learned a lot. This is great.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there'll be, like I said, there'll be notes after, as well as a recording of this. So thanks so much to, first of all, the NBDA, the National Bicycle Dealers Association, for hosting us. It's been an awesome opportunity. Thanks to the Running Industry Association, Locally.com, Motion Makers, Rutabaga, and Massey's Professional Outfitters. And so we'll go ahead and sign off now. Feel free to find us on YouTube or go to the NBDA website, which I believe is nbda.org. and
.com.
.com, nbda.com. Thank you. And you can also reach me if you want to reach out to Kenji at thebiggearshow.com. And thanks everybody for your words of wisdom, and appreciate it. We'll see you around the industry.
Great,
Thanks,
thanks.
Kenji.
I can take down my custom backdrop now.
Thanks, guys.
Likewise. Good luck, guys.
Adios.
All right, bye-bye.